What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Echoes of Elsewhere. It feels so good to be here again. If you've been with me from the start, thank you for sticking through my little break. If you're new, you're jumping in at just the right time because season 3 is about to take this podcast somewhere even further, even deeper, beyond the abandoned, if you will. But before I get into what's next, today's episode is going to be a little love letter to Urbex, to the abandoned, and to everything this strange little passion has taught me along the way. As most of us know, when you walk into an abandoned place, it is not just about peeling paint or broken windows. It's about stepping into a story left unfinished. And Urbex has taught me so many different things. But first and foremost, it has taught me patience, which if you know me in real life, then you know that I have lacked patience my entire life. So for Urbex to have taught me patience is a huge deal. However, waiting for the right moment to enter a bando, exploring carefully, taking time to uncover things, even research things, even down to the mapping. It all takes time, it all takes patience, and yeah, I'm just really grateful to have a little bit of patience now that I'm in my 30s. I think that's a good milestone. Urbex has also taught me a lot of problem-solving skills, figuring out safe entry points and exit points, routes, or how to navigate different obstacles. I think it just sharpens your creative thinking, your practical thinking. I think it sharpens all of your skills in a very subtle way almost, but the more times you do it, the more you sharpen those skills. So resilience is another one. Abandoned spaces often come with setbacks or obstacles, good locked doors, bad weather, dangerous conditions, all of that. And it teaches you a lot of persistence. Courage is another huge thing that Urbex has taught me. I've never gone living a lot of life without courage. I think I've always had a good amount of courage anyways, but facing fears of dark places, of the unknown, of being caught, all of that, the adrenaline rush, all of it, it builds bravery. And alongside courage, all of those things teach you how to be more adaptable. No two explores are ever the same, even revisits. You can go to the same place twice and have a totally different experience than you did the last time. So Urbex forces you to adjust very quickly to new environments. It also teaches you a lot of humility because ruin reminds you of the impermanence of human creations, and that really keeps your ego in check. Urbex has brought on a huge respect for history, where as before I started exploring, I really didn't think too much about the past, I guess, and not just my own, but in general. And I don't know why that is, to be honest with you. I was always very forward thinking, I think, before I started exploring. So going into bandos, especially ones that are time caps where it's an old house and there might be some stuff, it doesn't even have to be full of stuff, just some stuff to remind you of the life that was there, is always very eye-opening. And it really does make you think a lot about what used to go on in these places, what kind of family lived here, what are their stories. And now that I've been exploring again for about a year almost, I have noticed that I pay way more attention to names on documents or old letters or anything in houses or anywhere than I used to before when I first started exploring. I think I've always been present during exploring, but it's always been different. I think that when I started, it kind of feels like riding a bike where it's never been like I forgot how to explore. Not that there's like instructions on how to do this because everyone does it their own way. But I got right back into the swing of things But when I was first exploring as a teenager, technology wasn't as evolved as it is now. And oftentimes I would only have my cell phone, and my cell phone back then was not up to par for picture taking. And I would sometimes take a camera with me or something, whatever I had. But it was just different. You know, I think when I was younger, I was exploring to explore. It wasn't ever about, I'm going to go in here and take pictures kind of thing. And now that I'm doing it with that motive, alongside the motive of just going out and exploring, it does force you to prioritize things and think about things differently even. So I think when I first got back into exploring later last year, I was still trying to find the perfect balance between documenting and exploring. And now that I'm paying more attention to little details, like names or dates or whatever, I feel like I've kind of found that balance, and it's given me an appreciation for the past and for history. So that is another thing that Urbex has taught me. I really rambled just now on that one. My bad. Moving on, risk awareness and responsibility are other things that you learn and that I've learned during exploring. You just develop a stronger sense of weighing choices and their consequences, the risks that you take, that you don't want to take. And I don't think it makes you foolproof for mistakes by any means, but it does shape your awareness differently as you're exploring. Empathy is another huge takeaway from Urbex, at least for me. And that kind of ties me back into what I was just saying. Walking through homes and schools and hospitals, especially when you get names and faces and pictures and all these things, it really connects you emotionally to the lives that once lived there. I honestly don't know how people don't become more connected to bandos. I feel like I'm like in love with every bando I've been into because I'm connected to it now, you know, especially like the more stuff there is, the more stuff I've gone through in a bando, the more names and information I've been exposed to, I feel like the more connected I am. So sometimes I try not to even do that because I'm like, I'm going to cry if something happens to this place. I can't cry over every bando. I'll be crying for the rest of my life. But anyway, Urbex has also really enhanced my confidence because each successful explorer builds belief in my ability to handle challenges and obstacles. And I don't know, I feel like especially the ones that are a little more challenging, like just the other day, Backroads and I were out, and this has hardly ever happened actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And we've explored like probably over 100 places together. But we get to this one house, and this house was very challenging for entry. Like, it was very boarded up, very secure. We ended up finding a way in. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but here we are. We all know what we do. We all know what we do to get into a bando. We didn't break anything or any of that. We just happened to find a way in. And we had to do a little work in order to use the entrance that we found, but it worked out. And like I said, that's seldomly happened with us. We usually are very lucky and just like walk in the front door. We're good, or a back door. But this one house in particular, it really brought on its own challenge. And I almost got to a point, I think after being there for a few minutes and not really being able to get in as easy as what I've gotten used to, which really just means I'm spoiled. But after a couple minutes, I just remember looking at Backroads and being like, shouldn't we just go? We have like a million other places on our list for the day. Let's just move on. And I don't know what it was about this place, but she was like, we're getting in here. We're going. And so I was like, all right. And I'm really glad that we did, because it brings me back to the confidence factor of Urbex, where sometimes even the little challenges that get in the way that you overcome. And I know it's trespassing. I'm not stupid. I know I'm bragging basically, or I'm feeling rewarded for trespassing, and I understand. However, we got in there, and I did. I felt really rewarded. I felt proud. I think I feel safer talking about it openly on the podcast because my motive is always clear and I never take anything, and other than pictures, obviously. But yeah, I follow a pretty strict leave no trace policy. That's besides the point. The point is, I think that we all feel that reward when we have successfully gotten into a place, documented a place, and especially the ones that are a little bit more time consuming. Those are the ones that end up being the ones you're most proud of. And I catch myself on YouTube following a lot of the people that I can tell find that the risk is the reward, almost kind of situation. Like the higher the risk, the higher the reward. I don't know. I think that's why I love Luke Explores so much. I don't care about how many of you people have some shitty thing to say about him. I have a bone to pick with all of you, by the way. I wasn't going to bring this up on the podcast, but here we are. I'm going to have to tell him I'm bringing this up. Sorry, Luke. For those of you who don't know, in season 1, Luke was on this podcast. I love him. I adore him. Shout out to Luke Explores. Go follow him. Go binge watch his YouTube. First, let me make my point. My point is I watch explorers like Luke because you can tell that as much as they are about the explorer, they're also about the adrenaline. And I love the adrenaline seeking explorers. You know, like he's really doing high risk shit. Which brings me into what I was going to complain about. Luke had an accident. I can't remember when. I think like a month ago, maybe longer. Anyway, he had an accident. He could have literally died. And apparently there were people on like, I don't know, some platform, probably Instagram, probably Discord, whatever, talking shit about him and this accident, which again was life-threatening. I don't know what's wrong with people in any community, really, I should say, in the whole world. I don't know what's wrong with people, but I don't know what's wrong with people who get any kind of gratification or joy out of making negative remarks about someone's literal physical, mental health, their safety, whatever. You know, like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. It's really simple, and it's the mature thing to do. And that's where I'll leave that. I could go on, but I'm not going to. Anyways, point is, shout out to Luke. I love him. I adore him. Always have, always will. And he is one of the people that inspires me. You know, on the days where I question whether I want to keep doing this or not, which those days come more often than you would think. And those who are close to me know that. But on those days, explorers like Luke remind me why I do this and why I do this podcast. So it's very disheartening when I see these kind of things go on in this community, because I feel like we're all after the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. Supporting each other would be the best way for all of us to benefit from this community. I think we all need to start leaning more in a positive direction. And I'm guilty of my own drama in this community. And I think that that's not avoidable. But having said that, I do think that the best thing we can do is support each other. And if you have beef, or if you have a problem, or if you're jealous or whatever, I think the best thing you can do is nothing. You know, no one asked for the negativity and no one asked for your opinion. And it's very disheartening to see and hear about. And Luke is a really good person and he's a good explorer and I love his content. And as far as this podcast and I'm concerned, I will always support him. And if you don't like that, then don't listen to my podcast. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because, again, very disheartening to see so much kind of toxic energy going on in this community. I feel way more inclined and aligned with supporting each other. So shout out to those of you who do that. And yes, that's it. Anyways, moving on. Another thing that Urbex has taught me, a very obvious one, is an appreciation for finding the beauty in decay. Seeing art in ruins can really shift how you see life. The imperfections and the change of life and all the things that always go on around us. It makes you appreciate the present more, the past more, the future more, because you start to really see how rapidly things change. And that brings me right into mindfulness and how being in abandoned places and in the silence of abandoned places really grounds you in the present moment. It keeps you asking questions, digging into history, like I said, and seeking out the unknown, which also really piques your curiosity. And it connects you with almost everything, if you think about it. That's the most full circle way I can put most everything that I have learned from Urbex, is that it connects you with everything. It connects you with the past. It connects you with yourself, with your empathy, your confidence, your curiosity, your connection with yourself. And it connects you with others and the way you trust them, whether exploring with friends or sharing stories online. Urbex is building a community, and it has built a community. There's a whole community here. So it really brings everything full circle, and it gives me a sense of purpose more than anything. Documenting and preserving stories that might otherwise vanish gives me meaning. And I think it teaches most of us this awareness of time and mortality. Ruins remind you that everything changes. And that makes you value your own time more, and it makes you value the people around you more. It almost makes you live life a little bit more consciously with more awareness attached to it, because again, you're always reminded about how quickly life ends, how quickly life changes. And I don't know what other way can be so eye-opening than to step into people's past, and yeah, I just love it. I love it so much. Obviously, I've made a whole podcast about it. But anyways, there is one other lesson too, which is that every abandoned place has more than one story. And some of those you can read in the peeling wallpaper and the fading photos, and some you can trace through old forgotten letters, and then there are the stories that whisper, the ones that can't always explain, the footsteps in the silence, the shadows that don't feel quite right, the tragedies that you only find out about later when you go digging into the history. And that is what brings me to what's next for this podcast. I'm going to be introducing something new. Once every 4th episode, I will be going beyond the abandoned. It means we're not just walking through these places anymore. We're going to peel back their layers. We'll look at the hauntings people swear they've experienced. We'll dive into true crime cases that tie into forgotten buildings and ghost towns. We'll explore the mysteries that linger long after the doors have been locked and the windows shattered. So here's where we are. This podcast is still about Urbex. To answer everyone's questions, I know some people were freaking out and sending me DMs and comments and stuff, but this podcast is absolutely still about Urbex, still about the stories hidden in brick and concrete, but it's also about mystery, history, and the way they blur together. If Urbex has taught me one thing, it's that silence is never empty, and every shadow, every echo has something to say. And now it's time to listen a little more closely. So now every month I will take one episode and go a little bit deeper and dive into some paranormal stories and true crime cases that are attached to abandoned places. Thank you guys for sticking with me through this small hiatus. I have missed this very much, and I have missed all of you. If you're excited about what's coming, make sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and if you've got your own paranormal or true crime stories tied to an abandoned place, I would absolutely love to hear them. So be sure to check out all the links in the description and get in touch with me there. I will be back in 2 weeks. Until then, keep exploring the allure and the abandoned, the beauty of decay, and the echoes of elsewhere.